Welcome back to a very special Believe in Broncos on the Believe Network, sponsored by FanDuel Sportsbook, your home for everything sports betting. Why is it special? Why is this episode so special? Well, first and foremost, it is the first episode that Bri and I are recording in the year of our Lord, 2026. And by Lord, I mean our Lord and Savior, Peyton Manning. First episode of the new year, Bri, and it's a big one because the Denver Broncos are a victory away from securing the top seed in the AFC playoff picture. We talked about it a little bit in the last episode, what the importance of that is for the organization, what the importance is for Sean Payton. But in this episode, we're going to break down the game that is ahead, the game that is so important. The first game of the Denver Broncos season in 2026. Patrick Chiotti joining you live with my co-host, Bri Masis. Bri, Happy New Year. How are you doing?
Happy New Year, Pat. Happy to be here. And you're summing it up quite nicely. A huge game with large implications. And the worst thing that could possibly happen is that they squalor it away and bring back the horrors of yesteryear. But I don't think that's the case. It's a new year. It's not a new mindset. It's a mindset that's taken a hold of this team, I think, for the entirety of the offseason and the season. We're seeing the fruits of their labor pay off. And generally, the team is mostly healthy. So I think there is good vibes to be had all around. Obviously, a huge game with implications, as I already stated. But I'm really interested to see how it all plays out. There is a sense of optimism, I think, running through Broncos country. And at a certain point, I don't think it's optimism. You turn the page on your viewership of this team, and they've got all the right components to get it done.
Yeah, I think that this is just another game that the Broncos are looking ahead at. There's obviously a lot of pressure, the external forces of the playoff seeding and this being a divisional game. You lose this game and it changes everything about your postseason. And I love that Sean Payton kind of just has his tunnel vision on, and he's just looking ahead at this game. Didn't even realize that it was New Year's Eve a couple days ago. It doesn't care about that. It's just solely focused on what is ahead and what they need to do in order to shore up that top seed in the AFC. So, Bri, let's get started with an update on the injury report. Big one, though. Dre Greenlaw has not practiced all week, did not practice Wednesday or Thursday. So, by my counts, he's still questionable to play in this game. No practice today probably means that he is not playing in this game. But some good news, they could get Kareem Reed back from his hamstring injury. His IR window was activated in the middle of December, I think you said. And so he had a 21-day window. That is coming up pretty close here. So they have to figure out whether or not they're going to activate him and put him on the active roster or not. Nate Adkins and Pat Bryant, though, full practice yesterday. They are probably going to be ready to go. Adkins with that knee injury, Bryant, of course, with the very scary concussion in the Jaguars game. Missed the Chiefs game, of course, but it's looking like he will be back. Which of these players, Bri, do you think is probably the biggest the biggest implication going into this game of whether or not they play?
I mean, it's really tough with Greenlaw. You obviously can stand to rest him. I think you need, if he's able to go, those hamstring injuries are tricky. We obviously know the soft tissue continues to plague him. And I would hope that if he were to play, it would be a late run into the playoffs. But I think the implication here is at linebacker. I think with the obvious inclination that maybe it's Kareem Reed. They obviously have Lavelle Bailey still out there on the practice squad. It's been quiet on that front, which leads me to believe that there's not a whole lot of current motion. We're obviously only a few hours out from the game actually happening. So I'm surprised that we haven't heard anything. I think the notion that Greenlaw hasn't gone on IR is a good thing, because then you have the longstanding hope that he's able to participate later on in the season. But I'm glad for the most part that everyone's basically healthy. Pat Bryant obviously going to be dealing with concussion symptoms for some time. I do think that they're a little thin there at receiver, but your question really rotates around next game up, right? Week 18 is turning out to be lining up in the Broncos' favor, with the Chargers deciding to rest a lot of their starters, anyone who is banged up. But I think that's really the prime case and opportunity to overlook this matchup. And so what you don't want to do is think that they're going to be coming in here, limping out onto the field and aren't going to show up in any way, shape, or form. I mean, they're still trying to carry momentum into the playoffs. As a wild card seed, they're not necessarily going to want to have to shake rust off when they face their first opponent, which it probably could be somebody like the Texans, or no, that would be 4 and 5, right? So, I mean, I still don't think that they're looking past who their opponent's going to be after the regular season ends. This matchup in itself is kind of riddled with who's the healthiest, and right now the Broncos are. So that bodes well for their ability to succeed in this matchup. And again, I can find myself saying it with a little bit of trepidation, because I simply don't know, are they going to play down to a hobbled opponent? Quite possibly. That's what this Broncos team is and has been setting themselves up to do. But you're at home for your final home game of the regular season. Week 18 has big implications. I don't see why they don't come out in full sorts. And I still think at some point this team is going to have to rest a lot of their starters. The big key to the game is staying healthy. We don't need fourth quarter injuries that have serious long-term ramifications on the trajectory of this team. And I'm glad to see that, people are getting healthy at the right time. Getting Ben Powers back right now is huge. Getting him back up to speed. Palczewski obviously was able to do what he needed to do to keep this team in sorts, and I think it just creates more strength along the interior. That's important to this team and what they've been able to make click on offense.
Yeah, they desperately need to make sure that they don't go into this game and lose a bunch of guys. I think that's a big thing. So with Greenlaw, if he's still dealing with it, rest him. Okay, let's make sure that he's playing into the playoffs. If Pat Bryant is still kind of iffy, rest him. Keep these guys fresh. If you're up 3 scores going into the third quarter or going into the fourth quarter, pull everybody. Make sure that these guys are ready and ready to go. Because if you still win this game, you get that extra week off, and that's all fine and dandy. But if guys get hurt, that's an extra week that they have to spend in rehab and getting back up to 100% instead of preparing and getting ready for the next opponent. So love what you said there, Bri. Bri, let's turn our focus towards this game. Obviously, Justin Herbert not playing in this game. A lot of the Chargers starters will not be playing in this game. Sean Payton has not said, hey, you know what? I'm going to rest my guys too. He is full force going for that number 1 seed. So in this game, what do you need to see from the offense against this Chargers team that will make you feel confident that going into the playoffs, they have a good plan of what they need to do to get to the AFC Championship game and then to the Super Bowl?
Well, I think you're going to see a lot of it through the home field advantage. I think being able to control their postseason path, which is why Sean Payton hasn't alluded to resting any starters, I think that's massive. Winning the game, earning a bye week, you earn some rest and health. You use your advantages. You solidify clarity with where this team is going. And I think it's a little bit of fluff when you sit here and say this playoff positioning is really important, but the Chargers are already locked in. They're in preservation mode, not in domination mode. And I think that being able to control the entirety of the game and the urgency and intent, because the Chargers are going to be playing with a modality, I of caution. I think that it doesn't mean they're not going to compete. And so what you want to see from the offense is continuing to use that control. And I think that's where the Broncos have really turned a leaf through, after the bye week. They're a team with serious intentions. They're asserting themselves. They don't necessarily need the style points. I kind of like how Sean Payton has scoffed at that. It doesn't need to be pretty. It can be ugly. It doesn't need to be aesthetic, but they need to control. They have to be disciplined. They have to be professional and close the game, because we've seen them do that quite well in the fourth quarter. And I think if they do that, they walk in as the AFC 1 seed in January, and that's where they control their destiny. The conversation has been, is this team ready to, wow, they're well above speed, and now they're running through Mile High as the 1 seed. They have to finish and close, and I think that's what the most important thing is. What they have done well, though, is they have found themselves, and they have stayed true to that. So even if the run game has faltered recently, I think the offense still has the opportunity to say Bo Nix knows what he wants to do with this. Sean Payton knows what he wants Bo Nix to do, and ultimately it's come together really well. I would hate to see them take a speed off of that. If they're not running at the same intent that they were through this latter part of the season, I think that's where they kind of lose control. Don't try to play a different game. You're not playing a different opponent. You're playing an AFC West rival, and I think it's important to stick with that plan. What you're doing is working. You can install the fun stuff later when it comes to strategy to these tougher opponents.
I love it. Yeah, I think that if we can just see them come out with a strong game plan. We talked in the last episode about how when they were playing the Chiefs on that short week, it was kind of just the basic stuff offensively. Let's just see what we can get, control the game. I would like to see them do some of the same. Obviously you don't want to show too much going into the playoffs, but this is also an opportunity for Sean Payton to set some things up going into the second round of the playoffs if they get the bye, right? This is an opportunity for you to put some things on film that you can kind of call back to in that playoff matchup and then exploit down the road. So especially if they're playing somebody that they've already played, which is pretty likely, you definitely want to try and set some things up, set up the fastball so you can hit them with the changeup, right? I would like to see this be a good RJ Harvey game. Like, let's get him like 20, 25 carries. Let's get him somewhere in that range. 25 carries, hell, maybe even 30 touches in this game would be awesome.
You build the confidence, right?
Exactly. Like, hey, we're going to ride you, man. Like, Dobbins might be back maybe by AFC championship time, who knows? But for right now, he's got the keys. Harvey is only 22. He only has 22 less attempts than J.K. Dobbin had all year, right? 22 less rushing attempts. Okay. He is about 130 or 150 some total yards away from 1,000 all-purpose yards. That would be kind of awesome if they just fed him all game long and got him to that mark. It's 7 touchdowns on the season, or 7 rushing touchdowns on the season, 12 total touchdowns on the season. Maybe this is a 3 touchdown game and we get RJ Harvey to 15, right? And I know there's some other, like, this is always a fun time of year because guys are trying to hit the incentives, right? So there was the Adam Troutman question, like, oh, he needs 5 catches in this game to hit his incentive. I loved what Sean said. That's his average for the whole year. How are we going to do that in one game? But in these situations, Sean historically has tried to, like, help these guys out. So while this is still a game where they have to be focused on winning the game, I can't help but think that Sean is going to have some fun in this game. Trick plays up the wazoo, probably, which I know Broncos country is about.
Don't get too cute.
They said, RJ Harvey said that they have plays in the playbook for him to throw. We already saw how that went. Let's please never do that again. Like, please don't do that again. Just kidding. But I think that this is going to be a game where they still try to put things on film. They still try to execute a game plan, but they're also going to try and feed some of these guys. I hope that it is a RJ Harvey feeding frenzy on Sunday, but let's also just focus on winning the game. Bo Nix is 210 yards away from hitting 4,000 passing yards on the season. I think that's quite an accomplishment, truly, for a second-year quarterback in this day and age. I mean, good for him. That would be awesome. But let's focus on executing the game plan. I really want to see this run game keep going. Let's get Ben Powers some of those good reps in this game so that he can be feeling more comfortable going into the playoffs. I just need to see some consistency from the offense. Too many drops this season, too many miscommunications in the receivers. I need to see a clean game going into the playoffs for me to feel completely comfortable that whoever they're going to be matched up with come that second round, they're going to be ready and they're going to be prepared. Bri, the defense is going to be facing off against Trey Lance in his first start of the season. Justin Herbert not playing in this game. A bunch of starters not playing in this game for the Chargers. Keenan Allen is going to be playing in this game because he also has incentives that he wants to hit. What do you need to see from this defense after the last 4 to 5 weeks of not so great football from this defense? What do you need to see from them that will make you feel confident going into the playoffs?
Well, I have a counterpoint where if this defense hadn't have started as quickly as they did and as hot as they did, would we still be having the same conversation of this defense playing down or being worse than they were?
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of it has to do with the fatigue of the latter part of the season, and a first round bye does wonders for the soul. But I also think that as they continue to power through and do what they do well, it's been lacking all season that they don't have the turnovers. They were chasing a sack record, which they're now 9 off of that mark. And I don't possibly think they can do that, although they were able to do it against Justin Field and the Jets. So
don't doubt.
It's not so much doubt as I don't know who has sack clauses put into their contracts. And it's not necessarily that I don't think that they're capable of doing so, but I don't think this is the game where you have to go full throttle and try to disrupt Trey Lance, although Trey Lance has a remarkably low amount of passing attempts in his entirety of his career. And so this will be a game where we'll try to see what the Chargers try to run out there. And by run, I actually do mean the pun. I think the run game is going to be where the Broncos get to sharpen their knife skills along that defensive front when it comes to stopping any ability to run the football. And so I hope this defense is able to put on a strong showing, but I don't think that we need anyone going out there and pulling off a career game. I just don't want to discredit what they have been able to do situationally. And I know sometimes that means that a cornerback is going to get thrown over the top on. There's not a safety there in the backfield to back them up. And that has resulted in some long yardage gains from opponents that have looked pretty ugly on film. I'm not trying to sugarcoat it, but I am trying to be a realist here when it comes to, in the game of football, that fluidity sometimes gets knocked off. Now, we've seen other defenses get better over the season, but I think the Broncos started at the elite top. You could have argued they were 1 and 2, and we've seen teams kind of regress to the mean. And so I just want to hesitate when I say that they're trying to get better, but they are trying to get right. And I think, again, it comes into the play of control. It tilts really heavy on Denver staying disciplined because Trey Lance still has a lot of raw athleticism and ability, and he's inexperienced. So that's probably going to match really well against the structure of this Denver Broncos defense because the Broncos don't need to blitz him into oblivion. I think that's what you probably don't do. Don't force him to be a quick quarterback. Don't allow him to lean into his athleticism. I think he needs to make decisions, and then you have to make him question those decisions. That's how you're going to make Trey Lance uncomfortable. So don't give them the easy escape, right? Like, I think that that's what you can do with really elite quarterbacks or maybe some of the younger guys that are having a good go at it. You can make him uncomfortable in different ways, but knowing I'm saying that, I'm sure Vance Joseph has some crazy cooked up bring everybody looks that we're going to be seeing just to see if it unsettles him enough to give him the advantage there.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised with how the Chargers offensive line has been playing as of late too. I mean, literally the worst offensive line in the league by a bunch of metrics. I feel for Justin Herbert, honestly, but like that sucks. Oh well. Broncos could get 9 sacks in this game if they wanted to. I'm just gonna say it's 9 plays. 9 plays for you to get a sack. I think they'll be gunning for every single one. No, I think you're on the point. Like, don't let this guy get into a rhythm. You've got to be able to disrupt it, because if you let them have any shred of confidence that like, oh hey, maybe we can hang in this game, they're gonna find ways to attack you. And we talked about it in the last episode. The teams have been putting on film ways to disrupt or confuse this defense with multi-layered route concepts, tricky play action concepts where you're putting 2 guys in the same space and the defender has to pick somebody. It hasn't looked great coverage wise, and then they're just not getting home from the edges as much. And Sean Payton can talk about cage technique and all this stuff. Sean, buddy, let's be real here. I have watched Nick Bonito over the last 4 weeks sprint to a spot that is way too deep, way deeper than any edge rusher should be rushing to, and give up contain very easily. It's not a cage technique. If you're wanting to cage the quarterback, you cannot get too deep upfield. And that's something that Nick Bonito has been doing a lot over the last few games. It's just, it's a matter of like discipline at this point. And then you add in the miscommunications in the secondary, and that's where we're getting this product. They've only played 1 game, Bri, since the bye week. 1 game where they've had a positive EPA. 1 game. And that's
kind of shocking.
That's the Kansas City game. They had a 3.3 EPA in that game. Every single game after the bye, other than the Kansas City game, has been a negative EPA. That means they are allowing points at an alarming. Now, the offense in all of those games after the bye has had a positive EPA, where in the first half of the season they had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 games. 5 games out of that first stretch where they had a negative EPA. The defense in that same stretch, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 games where they had a negative EPA. But it was 4 out of the last 5 that they have been struggling in that sense.
They also have had a lot of inconsistency though,
yes.
too. So, and that is like the
yes, and that's the root cause of that metric. It's the miscommunications, it's the injuries, it's missed assignments, whatever that is. They have to clean it up. The worst one was the Jacksonville game by a long shot. That was the only one that was actually in double digits for EPA, and that was a rough defensive performance. I give it to Jacksonville. They played a great game, but the defense still needs to fix those little things. We saw the missed tackles, the miscommunications, the injuries to key players like Brandon Jones. Those are massive, and that's going to take a hit. But if you want to take this team deep into the playoffs, and you want us to take them seriously as a contender, they have to be able to fix those things in the biggest moments. We can't be in the middle of an AFC playoff game and oopsie, we didn't communicate on a switch release and we just gave up a touchdown in a key part of the game. Oh well, can't have that. Like, it has to be fixed now going into this game, because if the Chargers do something, that's on film. That's on film for the next team to go after, because they know. Right. It's the running back wheel out of the backfield conspiracy theory for me every time. Every freaking team has run that against Denver, and they will score on it. We know it's coming. It's just a matter of when, not if. So
it goes back to our conversation in the offseason, though, Bat. I think a lot really is that we weren't necessarily worried about the cornerback depth. We were worried about the safety depth. So you get a loss in Brandon Jones, so you have any of that tiered coverage, and you're allowing the offense to push through, hoping that someone's going to pick them up. Now you have a little bit of a downhill issue, right? Where PJ Locke is pretty much susceptible to. I don't think it's necessarily a downgrade, but when you're putting all the emphasis on special teams reps, you lose the ability to play some defensive snaps. And then your backup, I believe, is Devin Key. So it's not a bad one necessarily, but you see Patrick Surtain go out in the cornerback position. You're able to kind of mitigate those weeks that you were without him. And then Brandon Jones goes out at the safety, and you're almost kind of in a mismatch situation. So how do you ultimately try to fix that? You're slapping Flex Seal on it. So what's the option?
Well, I think the option is you need to have a bigger emphasis in the film room in these next following 2 weeks of practice. He has to be able to get up. Now, there's been a lot of former players that have come out and said, well, PJ is not necessarily the problem. It's just the communication issue. Well, that means that PJ is part of the problem. It's probably not directly on him, but it's him, it's Riley Moss, it's Alex Singleton, it's every player in that back seven has to be held accountable for the mix-ups. Oliver agrees. So I think for this game specifically, the defense has to show that they are the real deal, even with the injuries, even with all of the issues that they've had over the last few weeks. Show us that you fixed it, right? Show us that you took the time that from the Kansas City game to Saturday night, you took that time seriously. You put the effort in the film room. You put the effort in out on the field. You fix the tackling mistakes, and you're playing assignment football. Show us that so that we can win this game soundly against a backup quarterback and a bunch of backups and the worst offensive line in Bri. If they don't have 5 sacks in this game, I'm going to flip my desk. If they don't have at least 5 sacks in this game, I am going to flip my desk, because there's no reason that they shouldn't be able to get home and get to the. I don't care about Trey Lance's legs. I don't care about the mobility factor. We're probably going to see a bunch of naked boots and play action and all that stuff, and it's gonna go, and he's gonna have a chance to run. But if they don't get 5 sacks, Sean Payton, my desk is being flipped, and that's on you. Bri, let's go to FanDuel Fan Bets, the sponsor of this wonderful program, FanDuel Sportsbook. Head over to FanDuel Sportsbook right now. Make your first bets of 2026. We're going to talk about some of them in this for this game. Bri, when Justin Herbert was announced, we were live recording our last episode, and the spread jumped from, I believe, 6.5 to 11.5 live. Now the Broncos are favorites at 12.5 points. So let's play another game of over-under. Bri, the over-under for this game is 37.5 points. Are you taking the over or the under?
My score prediction puts me over, and I do believe it also puts me in the realm of the Chargers not being able to cover. Sorry, I had to do math in my head real quick. That was terrifying. I ultimately think the score is going to be over. It might be all by the Broncos' hand, but no, I think that's a little low. I do think it is Vegas trending towards the norm, though, of them playing a little bit down to their competition. But we see what teams have been able to do, and that's make the box score seem closer than it really is with some garbage time points. So I could see that absolutely happening here, taking the Chargers from a 1-score to a 1-score loss.
Okay. let's go with passing yards here. We talked about Bo Nix needing about 210 passing yards to get to 4,000 on the season. Right now, his passing yards on FanDuel Sportsbook are 211 and a half. Over or under?
It's right on the money there. And if we believe all the notion that Sean Payton is stat pattern and Bo Nix's favor, he's absolutely going to go for it. He's going to push the threshold and he could get 215 on the day. I honestly think this is a good game in order to get it done. You are down Pat Bryant, so that just makes you spread the ball around even further. As long as, I don't know, they don't use Adam Prentice to his full capabilities and completely steal away from the offensive strategy, I think Bo Nix can go I was going to say well over, but I will say over the yards there on 211. 211?
Yeah, 211 and a half.
Let's go 212.
Love it. Bri, last one, rushing yards. RJ Harvey, over under 56 and a half.
It's like they got this figured out. They must have statisticians and mathematicians over there making these lines, because that's right on the money there. But Pat, you said the magic word earlier. They have to lean into RJ Harvey. Run game, run the ball, run it. You have to lean into him in order to see if he really has what it takes to go long in this league and with this team. And they need to figure out what their run game looks like later on in the postseason, and heck, even for next year. So RJ Harvey over, but I'm going to go like 68 yards.
Love it. I love it. Let's finish off, Bri. What is your prediction for this game? What's your score prediction?
I keep waffling back and forth because I don't want to be that guy who's like, it could be a close game. But like I said, I alluded to it. I think they could somehow make it look like a close game. Ultimately, 27-13 to take me over on the score prediction. I do ultimately think the Broncos are going to be able to make this a convincing ball game. I still don't love the idea that they haven't been dominant in their wins when it's a one-score win. It's like we're self-conflating the idea of the Kansas City Chiefs and what they were in years prior. So the Broncos have to get it done. They have to get it done by at least 14 points. That is who they're going up against. It is last game of the regular season. It's in Mile High. That advantage is now becoming an advantage again in 2025 and now 2026 as we sit here in the new year. Ultimately, I think this is the game where they set out the regular season in fashion and look forward to a first-round bye.
The Denver Broncos have scored at least 20 points in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 games this season. I am going to go 28-16 Broncos. I'm calling for a touchdown, a random Chargers touchdown, and a bunch of field goals from Dicker the kicker. I'm going to go 28-16. I think the Broncos go up early and then slow it down and then put Stidham in, and Stiddy throws a touchdown in the fourth quarter to, let's say RJ Harvey. RJ Harvey, Stidham touchdown. I'm going to call it. But 28-16 Broncos is where I have. So that is going to do it for this episode of Believe in Broncos. Make sure that you follow Bri and myself on social media at Bri Maces 303, at Patrick Coyote. Make sure you follow at Believe Network as well. Subscribe to the show on whatever podcast platform you're listening to us on. And don't forget to head on over to FanDuel Sportsbook so you can place your bets on the overs and unders for the Broncos game against the Chargers. 1:25 kickoff for us over here on the West Coast. I cannot wait. Hopefully the Broncos will clinch the number 1 seed in the AFC playoff picture. That's going to do it. We'll see you next time. Happy New Year, and go Broncos.
Go Broncos.